Welcome to KetoMealsAndRecipes.com. Today's video tutorial will actually show you how to make 3 recipes in one tutorial while I'm making my absolutely amazing Chocolate Bounty Bar Brownies, which incorporate the main recipe, a decadent, moist, sugar-free and gluten-free chocolate brownie. And the second recipe you'll get out of this is the amazing Mounds Bar Center. And finally, the completed chocolate brownie. Let's get right to it. First, the macronutrient ratio for the Chocolate Bounty Bars is 4.3 to 1, with 5.6 grams of total carbs, 2.3 grams of soluble fiber, 0.5 grams of insoluble fiber, resulting in 2.9 grams of net carbs per bar. Because I have noted that many of my viewers are just learning to cook, I want to make this as easy as possible. I have subdivided the instructions under 3 headings. The first step is to make the Bounty Bar coconut layer. I begin by getting a large mixing bowl to which I add the unsweetened desiccated coconut flakes. One quick point about buying the desiccated coconut flakes. Always read the label and make sure you buy the unsweetened or sugar-free package. Then to the same bowl you can add your choice of either the sugar-free sweetened condensed milk that's made with heavy whipping cream or the coconut cream based one that's dairy free. And lastly, for this part, add the vanilla. Mix everything very well. What you want is for the desiccated coconut to blend in with the condensed milk and be completely coated in it. Then just cover the bowl with cling wrap and refrigerate for a minimum of 1 to 2 hours. And you do this so that the desiccated coconut can soften and absorb the sweetened condensed milk. And one thing I'd like to point out, you can do this step about 2 to 3 days ahead of time, because the longer you leave this in the refrigerator, up to 2 or 3 days, the coconut will soften up nicely and absorb the sweetness of the sweetened condensed milk. Now the second part of this treat is to make the fudge brownies. The first thing you have to do is begin by preheating your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius. I would also suggest that at this time you line a square or a small rectangular pan with parchment paper. I'm going to use a 9 by 9 inch or approximately 23 by 23 centimeter square pan. Having lined your pan, set it aside for now. And the next preparation step is to set up the Bain Marie, which some people call a double boiler. Get a small pot and put a bit of water in it. Set it on the stovetop to medium, and you want to heat the water so that it's actually simmering. You don't need it to boil, just steaming. Then get a bowl that will fit over your pot and is a bit larger than the opening. Toss in the butter, the sweetener which I have ground to confectioner powder, and also the Dutch processed cocoa powder and grated dark chocolate. With this double boiler method, what will happen is the steam will help melt the chocolate and the sweetener without scorching it. But do remember to stir occasionally as your chocolate and sweetener are melting. When everything has melted, take a little sample between your fingers, rub it. What you're doing is feeling for grittiness. You want the sweetener to have also completely melted, and it should feel smooth and silky. At that point, remove the bowl from the pot and let the melted chocolate mixture cool a bit. At this point, you do still have to stir it as it's cooling. In a separate mixing bowl, place a fine mesh sieve on top and then add and sift to aerate the almond flour, salt, and baking powder. And then just whisk to pass all the stuff through the sieve. Now back to the bowl with the cool liquid chocolate mixture. At this point you add the vanilla and the powdered coffee and stir very well to combine. Before adding the eggs, make sure that you whisk them very lightly into a homogeneous mixture. Then pour your whisked eggs into the chocolate bowl. Then stir or whisk until all the ingredients are well combined. Your chocolate mixture is now ready to be poured into the bowl with the dry ingredients. After scraping your bowl and all of your chocolate has been added, fold the dry and wet ingredients until everything is well combined. And this is how you make a perfect brownie batter. Now it's time to pour the brownie batter into the prepared square or rectangular pan. At this point, I would recommend that you lightly tap the pan on the counter to even out the batter and to get any bubbles. And you may also need to use an offset spatula to help spread it. After your batter is nice and even in your pan, place the pan in the middle position of your preheated oven and set the baking time for 15 to 20 minutes. Then, when your timer goes off, test the brownies for doneness. Use a toothpick, insert it in the center, and if it comes out clean, your brownies are done. If the toothpick comes out a bit moist, give it another 5 minutes of baking time, but no more than that. Otherwise, your brownies will be too dry. When the brownies are done, remove the pan from the oven and leave the brownies in the pan to cool on your counter. You want the brownie layer to be at room temperature. While I'm waiting for the brownies to cool down, I'm going to prepare my third step, which is the chocolate ganache. Using the same bain marie you set up earlier, to another bowl, add the refined coconut oil. Some people may think I'll use virgin coconut oil. That's up to you, but in my opinion, I find that the Bounty Bar will taste better if you don't add too much additional coconutty flavor. Because I want a nice balance of sweetness with the desiccated coconut, this is why I use refined coconut oil. And before I forget, also add the instant coffee. Add the rest of the unsweetened chocolate and also your sweetener, which you ground to a confectionery powder. Then just place your bowl over the pot of simmering water as you did before and let everything melt nicely. And don't forget to stir until the chocolate has completely melted. Also test for grittiness, and when you think everything is nicely melted, remove the bowl and set it on the counter for a moment. Now it's finally time to assemble all 3 layers and make the Chocolate Bounty Bar Brownies. First, get the pan with the now cooled brownies. Then distribute the desiccated coconut layer, which is the Bounty Bar center, on top of the brownies. And while you're distributing the coconut layer, try to make it as even as possible. Now, using a spoon or the bottom of a small measuring cup, as I am, use it to press gently on the coconut layer. This will compress the Bounty Bar center very nicely, and it will make it stick better so that it won't crumble when you cut it. Lastly, it's time to pour the melted ganache on top of the coconut layer. While you're pouring, ensure that you cover the entire surface area as evenly as possible. You will notice that the ganache will absorb quite quickly into the coconut layer, so you don't want to dump it all in one spot. And then immediately grab an offset spatula and spread the rest of the chocolate ganache to cover the entire surface. At this point, that's all you have to do because you have now assembled the entire Chocolate Bounty Bar Brownie. But as tempting as it may be, these tasty treats are not ready yet because you have to put the pan back in the refrigerator for about 1 hour in order for the chocolate and all the layers to firm up. Then when the 3 layers are firm, loosen your springform pan or use the parchment to help lift out the brownies from the pan. To get my 24 bars and to make each bar as even as possible, I'm going to use my ruler to measure out 6 rows in one direction by first scoring them at the right spot. After cutting my 6 rows, I rotate my brownies about 90 degrees and cut 4 rows perpendicular to the first 6 rows. And that's how you get 24 bars of absolute deliciousness. Please do let me know if you find my instructions in this tutorial useful, and if you like the recipe, of course. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe, turn on your notification bell, scroll down to all, very important to do that, and give this video a thumbs up and forward the link to a friend or family member that you think would also enjoy this recipe, because your recommendations are the best way to help my channel grow. Now for a few helpful hints. In order to keep the bars fresh and tasty, store them in an airtight container and place that container in your fridge. They will last in your fridge for about a week. That is, if you have really good willpower. Alternatively, and to help those of us who need a little bit of support with portion control, I want to let you know that these bars will freeze really well. But you do have to store them in a freezer-safe, airtight container. These bars will keep very nicely in your freezer for several months. And when you're ready to enjoy some of your frozen stored treat, just let it thaw on your counter. I want to thank you for watching my video, and if you want some more tasty treat ideas, check out the end links and click on them to watch those videos. And as always, the link for the printable Chocolate Bounty Bar Brownies is provided in the description below, as are the links to some of the ingredients I'm using. Most of all, I hope you come back when I post my next video. Until then, have a wonderful day. Cheers!